Hi, it's Jennifer O'Connor with the Athena Institute, here to give you a demonstration of how to get results in the web app Athena Building LCA. In the first two videos, I covered, sorry, just sharing screen, give me a sec. In the first two videos, I covered basics and working with your bill of materials. So in this video, I'll show you how to get results using the sample building. Okay. Before we get results though, let's just go take a peek here at the section within each project called assessment definition. So that's the screen I'm on right now. And this is where you set up the parameters for running the LCA. So this will have defaults already set up for you. It's going to default to include all life cycle modules, all elements of your building model, and all environmental indicators. And you only need to go here if you want to change those, or if you wanted to create some specific default assessment rules for particular circumstances. So, for example, maybe you regularly want to just run A1 to A5, in which case you might come in here and turn off anything you didn't want, and then save that assessment under a certain name. Maybe you don't want to run the full scope of your model. You know, say you're just core and shell, and you might come here and do that. And then finally, you might not always want to run all 32 ISO 21930 indicators, and so you can turn on and off any of those. Okay, so that is assessment definition. Okay, so let's go get results. Now, there are two ways to get results. You can either go up here to the reports tab and a window will open, and then you go fetch your model, and you can also customize your assessment parameters right there for that particular run. Or at the building model, click the three dots, the ellipsis, and you go down and you pick results, and then that will go straight to results with no questions that you have to answer on the way. Okay, so I've already calculated the results. It does take a few minutes, so I went ahead and did that in advance. And I'm going to click over to that tab. Okay, so we're landing on the first screen of 4 different types of information that you get in results. Okay, so I'm going to skip the first two, the general information, just whatever record keeping information that you had put into your model. And I'll skip the bill of materials, and let's instead look at the second two. So I'll go first to the bill of flows. Okay, so what's going on in the bill of flows? Well, these are your full life cycle quantities of your materials and energy. So what you'll have here is construction waste, so a certain amount of material quantity and waste. You'll have things like transportation fuels and end-of-life processes and all that. All right, so let's look at concrete as an example, and I'm going to filter for 25 MPa concrete, and I'm going to do that in the parent flow column. Okay, you'll recall from previous videos, flow is material name. There's something new being introduced here called parent flow, which is over here. So that will be the material itself plus anything else associated with the material, like transportation fuels. Okay, so let's go do a filter for 25 MPa concrete. So I clicked the button to bring up a filtering menu, and I'm going to just pick, it's defaulted to showing me everything, but I'm just going to pick 25 MPa concrete filter. And now that should be all we have. Okay, so let me show you what you're looking at here. We've got our A1 to A3, so our initial quantity of concrete. We have some road transport, so that'll be some fuel to transport that to site so that we have that A4 impact. We've got an A5 impact of some waste, so a little bit of concrete waste. transportation associated with the waste. Then we jump down to the C's, the C modules. Notice we have no B modules for this particular material, and that's because this material has no B impacts. If this was something that got replaced over the life of the building, we would see some B impacts here. And then we're down here in the C's for processes involved with the end of life. Okay, let's clear that filter. Over here, we have a very handy clear filter button right up here. I'll take that away and bring back the whole table. Okay, I just want to mention that sometimes your material quantities, or any of your quantities in the bill of flow tables may not look quite right. And I want you not to worry about it. If you see quantities that look a little bit out of whack, that simply means that our background environmental data in that case came from a cradle to grave EPD, and we don't have the disaggregated data to properly populate this table. So not to worry too much if things look a little bit off. Okay, now let's look at the LCA results. So I'm going to click over there and bring up that table. Alrighty, here you've got your complete results for all 32 indicators defined in ISO 21930, unless you turn some of them off in your assessment parameters. So you'll have your results here for the number of years that you ran the model and for the scope and boundary that were set in your assessment parameters. Okay, the first thing I want you to notice is at the bottom of the table, down here in the lower right hand corner, look at how many items you have. You have in this sample building 15,252 items with only 5,000 showing per page. Bear that in mind. This is a really big table, and if you think some things are missing, don't forget that your results are probably spread across multiple pages. Okay, so a lot of things you can do with this table. It has got so many items of data that you obviously need to do sorting, filtering, grouping, collapsing, etc., to understand what you're looking at. So first, I'm going to collapse some of these rows just to give you a better sense of what's here. Well, let me just click a few of these arrows, and you can start to see the first handful of indicators that are reported here, with the details showing when you expand the row. Okay. Now let's talk about grouping. So this bar up here is the grouping bar, and you drag anything up here that you want it grouped, that is subtotaled by. The table will open grouped by environmental indicator by default, and that means that we have the totals already showing already for you for each of these indicators. So let me show you some of the other things that you can do with this table to make it easier to read. First, let's do some filtering. And I'm going to go into environmental indicator, and I think I want to get rid of everything. I think I just want to look at maybe, let's take the first GWPs. By the way, this is not in proper order. Something that we're working on. Okay, I've got to go find GWP bio and fossil down a little bit lower in the list. Okay, so that's going to make my whole table quite a bit smaller. I've just clicked filter. It takes it a moment to get itself sorted out. And now I brought that table down, see here, to 1,700 or so rows. Okay. Now let's add something else to the grouping. Let's add life cycle stage, in other words, information module. So I've clicked that header. I'm holding down the mouse, dragging and dropping up here in the grouping bar. And now give it a moment. It's working. Alrighty, and so what I have now is I've grouped first level grouping by indicator and second level grouping by life cycle stage. And so this way I can quite quickly see my my totals across, there we go, across these life cycle stages for GWP total. Okay, so next, about life cycle? We just did life cycle stage. Okay, let's look at, okay, so that's a breakdown by life cycle stage. Let's get rid of that and let's look at it by material. Click the X box, takes a second to respond, and let's group by parent flow. Remember, you can move these columns around as with other tables, so I wouldn't have had to scroll for that. And I, holding down the mouse on parent flow, dragging and letting go. And we're going to give it a second to respond to that. And I want parent flow because I want the full impacts of everything related to these materials. So now I'll do a little collapsing so you can begin to see that I now have GWP by material, basically. Okay, what else can we do? Well, what if we, I know I have a B6 in here. This model has operating energy. What if I just want embodied impact? So let's go filter out B6. So first I'm going to click select all because it's going to be faster to do that. And then I'm just going to take off B6 because I just want embodied impacts. And while I'm here, maybe I'll take off the D's because they're kind of their own animal anyway. Okay, and now we'll filter. And now I've got my, maybe I'll take out parent flow and give it a second. And so now I've got my totals by, just got my 3 GWPs. You remember I filtered out all the other ones and I just have the embodied impacts because I filtered out B6. Okay, so you can obviously do a lot here with this table, and this is very handy for preparing your file with doing filtering and grouping and all that. So getting ready to do more and make graphs and tables and all of that in Excel. So you can do a lot here, but you can't do everything. So what you'll want to do is export to Excel. And that's what these two buttons up here do. If you click the top button, export all to Excel, you will get all of these results in different tabs in an Excel worksheet. If you just want the table you're looking at, click export to Excel. So if I clicked it now, I would get my ISO 21930 LCA results. In both cases, any grouping or filtering you did will be reflected, which is often what you want because you want your file pre-organized before you get into Excel. But if you actually want all of your results, you need to clear all your filters before you do that. Okay, that's it for this video. So I'm going to stop, and the next video will show you how to create your own model.